The Temple Mount in Jerusalem has never been excavated, but an illegal construction project 20 years ago opened the door to some major discoveries.
The Temple Mount in Jerusalem had never been excavated until an unexpected event changed everything. 2 decades ago, an illegal construction project exposed a secret long sealed beneath one of the most sacred sites on Earth.
The Temple Mount Sifting Project is an archaeological adventure whose purpose is to find the empirical proof.
Now, scientists have uncovered hidden chambers untouched for nearly 2,800 years.
We have uncovered one of the most meaningful items that is a witness to one of the most dramatic events in the history of Jewish people.
What lies within could rewrite the story of ancient Jerusalem and reveal truths once thought lost to time. The broken Assyrian seal. For the first time in history, archaeologists excavating Jerusalem have uncovered an Assyrian seal fragment. This relic opens a direct window into the fierce politics of the 8th century BCE. The find, announced by the Israel Antiquities Authority, was made near the western wall of the Temple Mount, a site steeped in centuries of conquest, worship, and mystery. Barely an inch across, the fragment is small enough to balance on a fingertip, yet it carries the unmistakable weight of empire. Inscribed in Akkadian, the official language of Assyria, the seal once sealed an official letter from the overlords who dominated Jerusalem nearly 2,700 years ago. This was the same empire that crushed the northern kingdom of Israel in 722 BCE, and soon after forced Judah to bow in submission. The tone of that letter, experts suggest, was anything but friendly. Excavation director Dr. Ayala Zilberstein described it as the only Assyrian inscription from the First Temple period ever found in Jerusalem or Judah, a discovery that shifts it from rare to historic. Until now, Assyrian texts had surfaced only in distant capitals like Nineveh or Samaria, never within the sacred heart of Judah itself. The discovery was almost accidental. Moriah Cohen, a staff member at the Archaeological Experience in Emek Tzurim, was sifting through soil from the Temple Mount when she spotted a small shard marked with strange symbols. At first, she doubted her eyes. It looked like cuneiform, the ancient wedge-shaped script of Mesopotamia. Against all odds, she was right. What she held was the broken edge of an Assyrian sealing lump of clay once pressed to authenticate a letter. Though incomplete, it retained the curved form typical of Assyrian seals, far larger than the locally used Hebrew bulla. It was bureaucracy in its purest form, the empire's clay signature. The fragment wasn't found where it initially fell. It surfaced in debris dumped into Jerusalem's main sewage channel during the Second Temple period, around 2,000 years ago. Archaeologists believe ancient workers clearing ruins may have swept remnants from a collapsed First Temple building into the drains, unwittingly burying and preserving a message from an empire long gone. When deciphered by Dr. Philip Vukosavovich, Dr. Anat Cohen-Weinberger, and Dr. Peter Zilberg, one word stood out: delay. Alongside it was a date, the first day of the month of Av, shared by both Assyrian and Judahite calendars. Though the upper text was missing, the intent was unmistakable. Similar letters found in Assyrian archives were stern reminders to vassal states behind on tribute or taxes. This fragment appears to be one such reprimand, an imperial warning in clay. The text even mentioned a chariot officer described as the one who holds the reins, a title reserved for royal messengers who carried orders directly from the throne. His inclusion shows the seriousness of the message, and as researchers note, that single word, delay, may be just the beginning of what this finding will reveal. Decoding the ancient seal. Experts believe the royal message could have been sent to one of 3 Judahite kings, Hezekiah, Manasseh, or Josiah, each of whom ruled under Assyrian dominance. Of them, Hezekiah stands out. The Book of Kings records that he defied Assyria. He rebelled against the king of Assyria and did not serve him. After that failed revolt, Judah resumed its tribute. But the empire never forgot. Still, Dr. Ayala Zilberstein and her team remain cautious. Relations between Judah and Assyria were not always hostile. Trade and diplomacy often flowed smoothly. The delay might have been a mundane matter, a shipment held up by weather, conflict, or distance. Yet under Assyrian rule, even small lapses had consequences. The empire's bureaucracy demanded precision. Every tribute of silver, gold, or grain had to arrive exactly on time. Petrographic tests added another layer to the mystery. The clay didn't match the soil of Jerusalem or any region in the southern Levant. Its mineral makeup pointed instead to the Tigris Basin, the Assyrian heartland. This means the seal wasn't produced in Judah at all, but in imperial cities like Nineveh, Ashur, or Nimrud, where official documents were created, sealed, and dispatched across vast territories. Dr. Anat Cohen-Weinberger confirmed that the clay's composition matched Assyrian geological sources. In other words, this small lump of clay had traveled hundreds of miles from Mesopotamia to Jerusalem, carrying with it the authority of empire. Researchers are now working with the Israel Geological Survey to pinpoint the seal's exact origin. If confirmed, it would represent the first physical proof of written correspondence between Assyria and the Kingdom of Judah. For historians, that's groundbreaking. Until now, Assyrian control over Jerusalem was known only through biblical passages and inscriptions found abroad. But this fragment, stamped in cuneiform, written in Akkadian, and likely delivered by a royal courier, proves Jerusalem was not a remote outpost. It was integrated into the Assyrian political network, its rulers monitored, and its obedience documented in writing. Beneath the stones of the Western Wall, archaeologists have uncovered more than a relic. They've exposed a record of power, submission, and survival. The fragment may be silent, but its message endures. Assyria's reach once extended into the heart of Jerusalem, and it left behind a single clay whisper to prove it. What else might still lie buried beneath the Western Wall, waiting to reshape what we thought we knew about the biblical city? The next discovery, archaeologists say, may bring us closer to that answer. 3,000-year-old seal. In a quiet Jerusalem lab, an unremarkable lump of clay changed history. Archaeologist Mordecai Ehrlich, sorting through trays of debris from the Temple Mount sifting project, paused over what seemed like another fragment of pottery or bone. Its surface, however, was wrong. Smooth, compact, and shaped with purpose. He brushed it clean. Under the light, faint impressions appeared, lines too deliberate to be chance. Tilting it closer, he saw the ghost of letters pressed by a hand nearly 3,000 years ago. It wasn't a bone, it was a seal. Using reflectance transformation imaging, a digital technique that layers images captured under shifting light, the team revealed the inscription in sharp detail. The Paleo-Hebrew letters emerged clearly, spelling out, "Belonging to Yedaiah, son of Asayahu." That short line carried centuries of weight. It was a First Temple period clay bulla, once pressed over a cord to seal a door, vessel, or chest. Whoever owned it held absolute authority, someone entrusted with sacred responsibilities inside ancient Jerusalem's most revered site. The seal's journey to that lab began decades earlier, amid controversy. Between 1996 and 1999, unauthorized construction on the Temple Mount led to the excavation and dumping of tons of ancient soil into the Kidron Valley. Denied access to the site, archaeologists Dr. Gabriel Barkay and Zaki Devira salvaged the debris, launching the Temple Mount Sifting Project, an unprecedented rescue mission to recover history grain by grain. Over the course of 20 years, volunteers sifted through millions of fragments, pottery shards, coins, jewelry, and animal bones, but complete clay bullae were rare. Ehrlich's find in 2025 was only the second intact seal with a legible inscription ever uncovered from the project. Almost every letter was preserved, making it an extraordinary survivor of Jerusalem's First Temple bureaucracy. Its timing deepened its meaning. The discovery surfaced just before Tisha B'Av, the annual day of mourning for the destruction of both temples. To find a seal from Solomon's temple on the eve of that day felt almost prophetic. According to De Vera, the seal was immediately identifiable and too significant to withhold. In the 7th century BCE, clay sealings secured storerooms and treasuries, pressed over cords and stamped with an emblem of ownership. Once hardened, they became tamper-proof proof of authority. This bulla bore two names: Yediah, son of Asayahu, both found in the Hebrew Bible, in 2 Kings 22 verse 12 and 2 Chronicles 34 verse 20, describing officials in the court of King Josiah, the reformist ruler of Judah. Scholars note that Asayahu is a longer form of Asaiah, with Yahu denoting a link to Yahweh, Israel's God. Such divine suffixes were common among high-ranking Judahite officials. Finding that same name impressed into clay on the Temple Mount transforms Scripture into history. It shows that these men were real administrators who lived and worked in the shadow of Solomon's temple, sealing documents and securing the treasures of a living faith. The temple, this suggests, was not only a place of worship, but also an administrative hub, a center of accounting and governance. Bullae like this one served as the signatures of treasurers and royal officials, proof of responsibility and record-keeping. For archaeologists, such finds are more than relics. They are receipts from history, tangible links between belief, power, and daily life. And this seal, inscribed in crisp Paleo-Hebrew, bridges the divide between biblical text and physical evidence. After nearly 3 millennia of wars, earthquakes, and rebuilding, that small piece of clay endured, buried, broken, and finally rescued from tons of displaced soil. When Ehrlich lifted it from the tray, he couldn't have known he was holding one of the most complete bullae ever found from the First Temple era. It was more than a discovery. It was the rediscovery of a man, someone who may have walked the courtyards of Solomon's temple, overseeing the treasures once considered holy. And though his seal was pressed into clay 26 centuries ago, its message still speaks, a faint but unmistakable voice from a vanished kingdom. But what exactly did this seal represent? Why was it buried here? And could its names unlock new clues about the hidden systems that once governed Jerusalem's sacred mountain? Those answers, as the team would soon learn, were every bit as revealing as the find itself. The echo of kings and temples. To grasp the meaning of the Yediah son of Asayahu seal, you have to picture Jerusalem in the 7th century BCE. King Josiah, Judah's 16th ruler, was transforming the city through sweeping religious reforms, purifying worship, and restoring the great temple that crowned the mount where this tiny seal was found. In that world, clay sealings, bullae, were the lifeblood of administration. They sealed scrolls, jars, and storerooms, ensuring that only trusted officials could open them. Finding one today is like uncovering an ancient signature, a personal mark of authority. The seal's inscription names Asayahu, a figure mentioned in the Bible as a royal minister serving King Josiah. That detail suggests its owner was part of the temple or royal treasury administration, someone who managed resources within Jerusalem's sacred precincts. It connects the artifact not to myth, but to the routines of real officials who recorded, stored, and protected the wealth of a living kingdom. Other seals bearing similar names have surfaced over the years, but most have come from the antiquities market, with their origins uncertain. This one is different. It was recovered from a verified archaeological context and sifted directly from soil associated with the Temple Mount. That difference is crucial. This isn't just a relic, it's evidence. Thanks to new sifting and imaging technologies, archaeologists have since recovered dozens more bullae once dismissed as too small or damaged to study. Each fragment adds a name, a title, or a faint connection linking history to scripture. Yet discoveries like this remain shadowed by tension. Direct excavation on the Temple Mount is forbidden. It's one of the most sacred and contested sites on Earth. The Temple Mount Sifting Project exists as a compromise, rescuing artifacts from soil removed illegally decades ago, now studied with scientific care. That paradox makes every find both historical and political. When the Yedaya seal surfaced, it was more than an archaeological success. It was a moment when faith, text, and science converged. The words of Kings and Chronicles found their echo in Jerusalem's earth. And as the team celebrated, one question lingered in the silence of the lab. What else still lies buried beneath the Temple Mount, waiting to tell its story? Hidden chambers under the temple. Using ground-penetrating radar, a team of researchers began mapping the unseen layers beneath the Temple Mount, searching for traces of ancient walls or foundations. What they found instead stunned them. The scans revealed geometric precision, straight lines, right angles, and patterns that could never be natural. As the data accumulated, an image emerged, a series of sealed chambers lying deep beneath the mount, untouched for nearly 2,800 years. As the ground-penetrating radar sent energy pulses into the Earth to detect density shifts, it revealed voids, walls, and buried structures. At first, the researchers thought the results were a glitch. The outlines looked like rectangular rooms linked by narrow corridors. But repeated scans confirmed it. A man-made complex, preserved in silence beneath the mount. The images showed steps, doorways, and floors, architecture, not geology. When scientists overlaid the radar data with 3D surface models, a startling alignment appeared. The hidden chambers sat directly beneath the area traditionally identified as Solomon's Temple, the first temple described in the Bible. If accurate, this meant the voids weren't random. They were part of a deliberate structure tied to Jerusalem's earliest sacred center. For centuries, such claims were legend. Now there was measurable evidence that something extraordinary lay beneath the mount. Geological analysis dated the sealed layers to around the 8th century BCE, the time of Kings Hezekiah and Josiah. That placed them squarely within the First Temple period. For nearly 3 millennia, they had remained undisturbed as empires rose and fell above them. Think of it, while Babylonians burned Jerusalem, while Romans and Crusaders rebuilt and raised it again, these rooms stayed untouched, sealed in darkness. Whatever they held, treasures, scrolls, or sacred vessels, has waited there since before Babylon's conquest in 586 BCE. The implications were immense. Were these storage vaults for temple offerings, priest chambers, hidden sanctuaries? No one can know for sure because the mount cannot be excavated. The holiness of the site forbids it. The radar images are the only glimpse, a spectral outline of a buried story. To verify the findings, scientists used microgravity sensors and electromagnetic tomography, which detect minute variations in the Earth's field without disturbing the ground. The results were identical: hollow spaces, structured walls, and clear boundaries matching the radar maps. A clearer picture formed, a subterranean network built with precision, sealed with intent, and preserved almost perfectly. It wasn't a tomb or a ruin, it was a system, planned, functional, and deliberate. Why it was sealed remains a mystery. Some believe it happened during Hezekiah's reforms, when older shrines were closed and worship was centralized at the temple. Others think it was hidden during invasions, a last attempt to safeguard sacred objects before destruction came. Whatever the reason, its survival is astonishing. The chambers were sealed so completely that time, fire, and moisture barely touched them. For nearly 3,000 years, they waited beneath a city that forgot they existed. For scientists, the discovery is both thrilling and agonizing. The technology has opened a window into the past, but not a door. Still, it changes everything. It proves that the Mount conceals intact structures older than any standing building in Jerusalem. It shows that the site's holiness was built not only on faith, but on stone foundations laid by the earliest worshippers of Israel's God. And yet, for all that radar could reveal, one truth remains: the deeper they see, the greater the mystery becomes. The ancient shrine and the challenge to Scripture. When researchers enhanced the radar imagery, a new pattern emerged, a circular chamber distinct from the rectangular rooms around it. Its symmetry was striking. The walls were thicker, the center slightly raised, as if built for something sacred. The lead geophysicist called it an anomaly of unusual geometry. Others quietly called it what it appeared to be, a shrine. At its center, the scans revealed a dense mass, too small to be a structure and too solid to be space. The signals suggested stone, perhaps a carved base or pedestal, the kind once used to hold sacred vessels or ritual artifacts. The possibility was staggering. For centuries, scholars have wondered what became of the treasures of Solomon's temple: the golden lampstand, the table of showbread, and the Ark of the Covenant. The Bible ends abruptly with the destruction of the temple by Babylon. Later traditions hinted that priests may have hidden their most sacred objects before the fall. If those accounts held any truth, this chamber could be where they were hidden. But the team resisted speculation. The evidence was compelling, yet unconfirmed. The radar images, precise, symmetrical, deliberate, were unlike anything ever recorded beneath the mount. To investigate further, they turned to history. Old excavation notes, British surveys, and Ottoman maps all mentioned blocked tunnels and sealed vaults beneath the Haram al-Sharif. In the 1860s, explorer Charles Warren described a network of underground passages, one of which led to a round chamber of unknown origin. The alignment of Warren's sketch matched the new radar data almost perfectly, a discovery separated by more than a century, now converging across time. This confirmed the chamber's reality. It wasn't an illusion or software error. It was built, sealed, and forgotten, with purpose. But by whom and why? Some scholars believe it was part of the First Temple, a secluded priestly sanctuary. Others think it was rebuilt during King Josiah's reforms, when worship was centralized. A few even propose it predates Solomon entirely, perhaps a Canaanite or Jebusite structure later absorbed into Israelite worship. Whatever its origin, the implications were profound. If the chamber dates to the temple period and contained ritual objects, it could provide the first physical evidence of ancient Israelite religion, a tangible echo of faith and history entwined. Infrared imaging detected faint heat signatures inside, suggesting air pockets or metallic residues. The readings suggested the chamber was airtight and possibly still contained preserved materials, but excavation was forbidden. The researchers could only study the echoes and silence. As the data accumulated, the chamber revealed a more profound secret. It lay perfectly aligned with the temple's ancient axis, in direct line with the presumed Holy of Holies. That symmetry couldn't be a coincidence. Whoever sealed it had done so deliberately, preserving its sanctity in stone. Within the team, the realization sent chills. This was no mere structure, it was theology, built in geometry. When the findings quietly circulated in academic circles, opinions split. Some called it the most crucial discovery in decades, the first tangible trace of the First Temple's inner design. Others urged caution. But one fact remained: the images were authentic. The geometry was exact. Something intentional lay below. The Israeli Antiquities Authority called for restraint. Muslim authorities condemned further study, fearing desecration of the sacred mount. Weeks later, as the team refined their data, one final reading changed everything. Using ultra-low frequency scans, they detected a faint magnetic distortion near the chamber's core, the signature of alloyed metal buried deep beneath the stone. Whether it was bronze, gold, or something else entirely, no one could say. But if the reading was accurate, then the chamber, sealed since the days of the kings, still guarded objects untouched since antiquity, hidden beyond the reach of history itself. Relics of the past. Beneath the Temple Mount, the discovery has gone far beyond walls and chambers. What makes this find truly remarkable are the artifacts uncovered inside. Ordinary objects that open an extraordinary window into life nearly 3,000 years ago. These items, untouched since the First Temple period, tell the story of how people lived, worked, and worshipped in ancient Jerusalem. Among the first discoveries were cooking pots, simple yet deeply symbolic. At first glance, they look like everyday vessels, but their presence inside a sacred shrine reveals something more. These pots were likely used to prepare offerings, food for sacred rituals. In ancient Jerusalem, eating and sacrifice were closely tied to worship. Meals often accompanied prayer, and food offerings symbolized devotion. The survival of these pots, perfectly preserved, shows how central they were to spiritual life. Nearby, archaeologists found loom weights, small stone discs once used to hold threads steady during weaving. Their appearance inside a shrine puzzled researchers at first, until they realized what they meant. These tools suggest that textiles were made for sacred purposes. Priests may have worn robes woven for ceremonies, or holy objects could have been wrapped in consecrated fabric. One of the most surprising finds was the discovery of scarabs, small carved stones shaped like beetles, common in ancient Egypt. Scarabs symbolized life, protection, and rebirth, and their presence in Jerusalem points to cultural and trade connections between Judah and Egypt. They prove that the Holy City was not isolated but part of a broader network of exchange. The shrine reflects this blend of influences, Egyptian symbolism intertwined with Israelite faith, revealing how spiritual and cultural ideas moved across borders. Even more revealing were the inscribed artifacts, seals, and pottery fragments, bearing ancient Hebrew inscriptions. A rare stone seal from around 2,700 years ago stands out among them, bearing symbols of ownership and authority. Pieces of pottery with Hebrew inscriptions suggest that literacy and record-keeping were part of daily and sacred life alike. These details show a society that valued order, communication, and personal identity, even in the context of worship. The shrine was not merely a place for prayer. It was a microcosm of life, faith, and governance. Together, these artifacts place the shrine squarely within the First Temple period, connecting it directly to the time of King Hezekiah, who ruled Judah in the 8th century BCE. This is the same king described in the second book of Kings as the reformer who removed the high places, smashed the sacred stones, and centralized worship in Jerusalem's main temple. Generations later, Hezekiah's lineage would include Jesus, linking this era to the roots of the world's most influential faith. But what makes this discovery extraordinary is how it challenges the completeness of Hezekiah's reforms. Despite his efforts to eliminate local shrines and pagan worship, this underground sanctuary shows that ancient practices endured in secret. Hidden beneath the Temple Mount, it remained untouched for nearly 3 millennia, a silent witness to the persistence of devotion outside official decree. The most striking feature of the site is the standing stone, known in Hebrew as a matzevah. In ancient tradition, such stones represented the divine presence, tangible markers where people prayed and made offerings. Remarkably, this one survived Hezekiah's purge of sacred stones. Archaeologist Eli Shukran, who helped lead the excavation, called it the most dramatic and important find in the excavation. "When we uncovered it," he said, "we found it standing in its place, surrounded by stones. It was covered with earth and preserved. No one destroyed it. When we found it, it was exactly as it was 2,800 years ago." This stone's survival speaks volumes. While Hezekiah's reforms sought to unify worship, some elements of older faith remained too sacred to erase. Perhaps out of reverence, fear, or defiance, the people of Jerusalem sealed the shrine rather than destroy it, preserving their heritage in silence beneath the holy city. Another chamber revealed the remains of an altar, identifiable by a small drainage channel that still runs from one corner, likely used to release liquid from ritual offerings such as wine or oil. This detail shows how carefully the site was constructed for sacred use. Nearby, archaeologists discovered V-shaped carvings etched into the stone floor, mysterious and deliberate. Their exact function remains unknown, but experts believe they may have supported a tripod or stand used in religious rituals. Each mark offers a tantalizing clue about forgotten customs, fragments of ceremonies long lost to history. Every item tells a story. The jars suggest food storage or offerings. The loom weights point to textile preparation. The grinding stones reveal sustenance, both physical and spiritual. The seals and inscriptions speak of identity and order. And the scarabs hint at cultural fusion, a faith that absorbed ideas while maintaining its own traditions. Taken together, the evidence paints a vivid picture. Even under the shadow of royal reforms, the people of ancient Jerusalem quietly kept their faith alive. The shrine beneath the Temple Mount stands today as proof that history is never one-dimensional. It tells of kings and decrees, but also of common people, believers who balanced obedience with memory, who found ways to worship even when the world above changed. Thanks for watching. Now check out the videos popping up on screen for more unbelievable stories.